why was it fundamentals? Why is it that such a heavy part of your thinking and understanding of the markets?
Well, at the end of the day, right, these asset classes that you're trading are being driven by underlying fundamentals, right? There's a reason as to why that currency is moving the way it's moving. It's because we're looking, for example, if we're looking at the euro, we're looking economically, how is it performing? Are we growing in the Eurozone? What's inflation like? What's the central bank doing? All these factors are influencing that asset that you're trading. Yeah. The markets, yes, will move a certain way technically, but the technicals are firstly responding. The institutions, the big boys, are looking at how the economy is performing. Yeah. And that influences the asset class. As simple as that, in my opinion. Yeah. That's it.
It's a similar answer that he gave. He literally just said to me, it's like, that's the way the world works, So it's like, based on the fundamental knowledge, and all that information you mentioned, it's like, that's how money moves in the world. So when he said that, I was like, wait, that sounds so, so real. And yet it just shows the importance of it, regardless of whether you use it in your trading or not. Isn't it such a good thing to have that knowledge on how the world's operating?
It's a powerful thing to have. It's invaluable knowledge. You need to know, like, for yourself as well, what's going on in the economy, where you're living, what's happening, who these guys are influencing the exchange rates. What does that mean for you and your mortgage? What does that mean for your shopping, for your family? All of these things you need to be aware of. It's funny because I am such, a humble person. I'm not someone to spark controversy. I'm not the big I am. But when I first came onto the scene, creating content, absolutely nobody was talking about fundamentals. Nobody. Go back and you go to my timestamp and go and look at all your, all of these guys, mentors, the gurus. No one was showing their face. Everyone was just posting charts. No one's on camera. No one's speaking about fundamentals. And then as soon as I come on the scene, I'm doing it, bam, 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 bam. I get all of these people messaging me, all of the big boys, and then eventually people started wising up to me. A big set of guys that at the time, who obviously are not big now, but they brought me in because they knew something was going on here. I was creating this buzz. Everyone was getting in touch with me about fundamentals. So these guys brought me in for an interview, not an interview, just a chat. And they're interested in the fundamental side of things. They want to create a fundamental course. They were not doing fundamentals. They were just focused on technicals, these guys. That was all that they were pushing out. I know they did their YouTube videos themselves, their Something Tuesdays. And then I personally wanted to have like a, relationship with them in terms of like a collaboration, but that's not what they wanted. They basically wanted me to work for them. Yeah. And then as soon as I didn't want to work for them, things turned a little bit nasty, which whatever is what it is. And then it's literally a week or so after they started trying to create a fundamentals course, and they did that. Fine, I don't care. You can do that. So yeah, my point is no one was aware of fundamentals.
Yeah. And nowadays you're seeing it as being a bit more, and I think, do you think it's probably because of, one, obviously the lack of knowledge, and it's kind of like a niche area still, even to this day, more of a niche side, because obviously everyone always focuses on the technicals. I think it's more of a holy grail plug, if you will, with technicals. Like, oh, look at this. Like we said, like the institutional trade this way, so it's so much easier to market in comparison to actually having to learn something to them, because I don't think you can personally fake being having knowledge on fundamentals.
No, impossible.
It's hard. I know the people you're talking about. I know who they are. Yeah, they tried to fake it. It doesn't work. Yeah. So they hired. I remember I was there. So they hired someone to teach them. Not even teach them. They hired someone to tell them. So
I know who it was as well. I know who that guy was.
There you go. So like they hired someone to tell them, and then they would just basically take the script, if you will, and then just make a video with that script. Yeah. But you can always tell.
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell when someone's reading a script and they don't actually know what they're talking about 100%. Versus someone who has that deep understanding, that authenticity.
100%. Now, not to throw cold water on anyone's technical analysis, because technical analysis is an art. It's an art. But I would just generally say, just on your point, anyone can draw analysis. Anyone can do it. As I say, it's subjective, but whatever works for you. But not everybody can do fundamental. It takes that extra work, to really understand and get how things are moving in the market, what influences the markets, excuse me. So yes, that can't be faked. You have to really, really put in the work there as well.
100%. 100%. And, in terms of what you said earlier, You know, like this is how the economies work, and the way that the institutions will look at these economies are based on these fundamentals, because they want to see, how healthy is it? Is it in a bad space? Is it in a good space? And the analogy I always like to use is that, essentially think of it as like the euro stock, the pound stock. These fundamentals are essentially telling you how well they're performing as a stock. And therefore, if the fundamentals are poor, so if the numbers for, say, CPI are poor, like they're not so good, and it's not looking as a good outlook for the foreseeable, say, 6 months, 12 months, wherever, therefore that stock is going to perform badly. Therefore, euro is going to look to come down. That's the analogy I try to put. Is that sort of a correct sort of way of looking at it in terms of, saying how these are operating?
Yeah, like for example, one thing that I used to do, I'd create like an Excel document, and I'd still say go through this extent of research. Create like a spreadsheet, right? Euro, GBP, dollar, yen, so on and so forth. Have different fields, for example, growth, inflation, labor market, and then central bank, like interest rate.
Yeah.
Put all that data in, put it all in, and then just form like do a comparison, okay? So firstly, you're getting a broad overview of how each economy is performing, see where all the figures are at. And then as your role as a fundamental analyst, right? You're a technical analyst as well, but as a fundamental analyst, you want to be observing, see which economies are performing better than the other, okay? So then obviously if you're trading GBP yen, for example, you're seeing, okay, the UK is in a stronger position. Ultimately, the trend should be to the upside for GJ, okay? And then one of the real key things to be keep an eye out, which has been a massive thing over the last 6 months, is monetary policy. Now, if you look at euro dollar from June 2021 up until November 2022, euro dollar was just firm. Euro dollar was firmly to the downside. Okay, and that was because there was this massive monetary policy divergence. The FOMC were raising interest rates where the ECB keeping rates low. Okay, so you're getting this monetary policy divergence. What's going to happen to the currency when you're raising rates, strengthening your currency? And the other one wasn't. So things like that
made it simple.
It's just simple, bro. It's just simple.
And then do you literally just do a procedure of just aligning them, that knowledge, that sort of bias with your technicals?
Yeah, exactly. And for me, both of them have to go hand in hand. If my fundamental view says one thing and then my technical says another, I won't trade. Okay. Because firstly, as I went back to you saying, obviously the fundamentals for me is you have a trend, right? Yeah. So say for example, we're in this trend back then with dollar of rates are going to the upside. There's a theme that's driving dollars to the upside. So anytime we're seeing a pullback technically, that would be happening technically, those dips are going to be bought, okay? Because of that fundamental view or that theme that's driving the market to the upside. So it's sort of, just trying to get them hand in hand. And sometimes you will see, say for example, ahead of a key piece of data, you'll see the way the market's lining up. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like a basic head and shoulders pattern, right, of euro dollar. All right, euro dollar, and you've got non-farm payrolls coming out and the numbers strong and bullish. You see that head and shoulders playing out nicely, it's coming to the downside, and it just goes hand in hand. The markets were, positioning for that, You've got the fundamentals and the technicals, and it just sort of goes hand in hand. A lot of the time you'll see that.
I think so, yeah. I've seen that loads of times, yeah.